Picture this, it's 1981, and the world of progressive rock is teetering on the edge of oblivion. Punk's raw sneer and disco's glittery pulse have all but drowned out the sprawling, symphonic dreams of the 1970s. In Italy, the golden age of rock progressivo italiano, that heady blend of classical grandeur, jazz improvisation, and pastoral melancholy has been fading, replaced by the slicker, more commercial sounds of the new decade. Yet, in a basement in Vicenza, a group of young musicians, barely out of their teens, are quietly crafting something extraordinary. They're not chasing fame or radio play. They're chasing a feeling, a fleeting, dreamlike vision of music that refuses to bow to the times. This is the story of Abissi Infiniti, a band that released just one album, Tunnel, and vanished into the ether, leaving behind a small but shimmering gem in the vast treasure trove of Italian progressive rock. If you've never heard of them, buckle up. This is a band you need to know. Let's set the scene. The 1970s were a wild, fertile time for Italian prog. Bands like Premiata, Forneria, Marconi PFM, Banco del Mutuoso Corso, and L'Orme were weaving intricate tapestries of sound, blending the theatricality of opera, the improvisational fire of jazz, and the pastoral lyricism of Italy's folk traditions. These were not mere imitators of British giants like Genesis or Yes. Italian prog had its own soul, rooted in the country's rich cultural heritage. Think Vivaldi's soaring strings, Verdi's dramatic crescendos, and the melancholic ballads of rural troubadours. By the late 70s, though, the scene was fracturing. The rise of punk, new wave, and pop was squeezing out the sprawling ambition of prog, and many bands either adapted to the new era or faded away. Into this twilight stepped Abissi Infiniti, group of 6 young men from Vicenza who had been jamming together since 1975. First as Black Magic, then as Strigoni, before settling on a name that translates to infinite abyss. It's a name that evokes mystery, depth, and a touch of existential dread, perfect for a band chasing the ineffable. Abissi Infiniti was made up of Claudio Liotto on vocals and piano, Andrea Zanotta on guitar, Berto Cazzola on keyboards, Enrico Cturle on Solina string synthesizer, Lucio Negretto on bass, and Paolo Finn on drums. They were joined by guest musicians Claudio Sibonal on drums and Aldo Menti on bass, violin, and acoustic guitar for their solo album Tunnel, released in 1981 on the Obscure Nights Records label. The album was a small press affair, with a limited run that made the original vinyl a collector's holy grail. It wasn't until 1994 that Mellow Records reissued it on CD, giving it a second life for those willing to dig into the dusty corners of prog history. But don't let the obscurity fool you. Tunnel is a record that captures the fading glow of Italian prog's golden era, while hinting at something new, a bridge between the lush, symphonic past and the lean or introspective sounds of the 80s. What makes Abissi Infiniti worth your time? For starters, they didn't give a damn about fitting in. In an era when bands were stripping down their sound to chase chart success, Abissi Infiniti doubled down on the dreamy, atmospheric qualities that define the best of Italian prog. Their music isn't flashy or bombastic like some of their predecessors. It's intimate, almost confessional, with a delicate balance of melody and texture that pulls you into their world. Think of it as a late-night conversation with a friend who's just a little too intense, a little too lost in their own thoughts. The band's influences are clear: PFM's melodic sweep, Banco's keyboard-driven drama, Genesis's pastoral reveries, but they're not copycats. They take these influences and filter them through their own lens, creating something that feels both familiar and startlingly personal. Let's talk about Tunnel. The album is a compact 34 minutes, spread across 9 tracks, and it's a journey that feels both fleeting and eternal. The opener, Come Bambini di Sera, like children in the evening, sets the tone with its wistful piano chords and Claudio Liotto's soft, almost fragile vocals. There's a sense of nostalgia here, a longing for something lost, that runs through the entire record. The song's structure is loose, almost improvisational, with Andrea Zanata's guitar weaving in and out like a gentle breeze. It's not a show-offy track, but it's got that unmistakable Italian prog knack for making simple melodies feel profound. You can almost picture a group of kids running through a twilight field, their laughter echoing into the distance, a scene that's both idyllic and tinged with melancholy. The next track, Il Segreto, The Secret, dials up the drama, with a nod to the theatricality of bands like New Trolls. Liotto's vocals take on a more emotive edge, backed by lush keyboard textures from Cazzola and Cturl's Selena strings, which add a cinematic sweep. The song feels like it could have been lifted from a lost Italian film score, with its blend of mystery and romance. But here's where Abissi Infiniti shows their quirks. The vocals, while heartfelt, can feel a bit overly sweet, almost cloying, which might turn off listeners who prefer their prog with a bit more grit. It's a minor flaw, but it's part of the band's charm. They're not trying to be perfect. They're trying to be real. Spirale is a standout, a 3.5-minute instrumental that channels the spirit of Yes at their most concise. Zanata's guitar takes center stage, delivering a spiraling, almost hypnotic melody over a bed of shimmering keyboards. It's the kind of track that makes you wish the band had leaned harder into instrumentals, because they clearly had a knack for it. The title track, Tunnel, is shorter and punchier, with a driving rhythm that hints at the harder-edged sounds of the ATS. It's not quite hard rock, but it's got a certain urgency that contrasts with the album's more reflective moments. The closing track, La Grotta di Cristallo, The Crystal Cave, is a haunting, piano-driven ballad that feels like the band's farewell to the world. Liotto's vocals, backed by Menti's violin, carry a weight of finality, as if they knew this was their one shot to say something meaningful. One of the most striking things about Tunnel is its production. This is 1981, remember, so the warm, analog glow of 70s prog is giving way to the cleaner, more polished sound of the new decade. The synthesizers and pianos dominate, replacing the Hammond organs and mellotrons of earlier Italian prog. Some purists might balk at this, but it gives the album a unique place in the prog timeline. It's not quite the lush, baroque sound of PFM's Storia di un Minuet, nor is it the cold, digital sheen of ATS pop. It's somewhere in between, Twilight Zone, where the old and new collide. The result is a record that feels both timeless and firmly rooted in its moment. But let's be honest, Tunnel isn't perfect. Some tracks, like Fescher di Luna, Mooncracks, feel underdeveloped, as if the band ran out of time or ideas before they could fully flesh them out. The vocals, as mentioned, can veer into saccharine territory, lacking the raw power of a Demetrio Stratos or the soulful depth of a Francesco Di Giacomo. And at just 34 minutes, the album feels like it's over before it's had a chance to fully unfold. Yet these flaws are part of what makes Tunnel so endearing. This isn't a slick, overproduced masterpiece from a band with a major label budget. It's a labor of love from a group of young guys who poured their hearts into a record they knew might never find an audience. And in that raw, unpolished honesty lies its magic. So, why should you care about Abissi Infiniti? Because they represent the underdog spirit of progressive rock. They weren't trying to be the next PFM or Banco. They weren't chasing fame or fortune. They were just a bunch of kids from Vicenza who loved music and wanted to create something beautiful. In a world that's increasingly obsessed with instant gratification and viral hits, there's something deeply inspiring about a band like this one that toiled in obscurity, made their art, and walked away. Their story is a reminder that music isn't just about success or recognition. It's about capturing a moment, a feeling, a fleeting glimpse of something bigger than yourself. Listening to Tunnel today, you can't help but feel a pang of nostalgia for a time when music felt like an adventure. This was an era when bands took risks, when a 3-minute instrumental could be just as powerful as a 20-minute epic. Abissi Infiniti may not have the technical virtuosity of some of their peers, but they had heart, and that's what makes their music resonate. Tracks like Nebbia Incantata, Enchanted Fog, and Merlino have a quiet, almost mystical quality that pulls you in, inviting you to lose yourself in their world. It's music for late nights, for long drives, for moments when you need to escape the noise of the world and reconnect with something deeper. If you're new to Italian prog, Abissi Infiniti is a perfect entry point. They're not as intimidating as some of the genre's heavier hitters, but they've got enough depth to reward repeated listens. Start with Tunnel, let it wash over you, and then dive into the broader world of rock progressivo italiano. Check out PFM's Per un amico, Banco's Darwin, or La Orme's Felona e Serona. You'll find a universe of music that's as rich and varied as anything from the British or American scenes. And if you're already a prog fan, Abissi Infiniti is a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. It's not a perfect album, but it's a damn good one, and it deserves a place in your collection. So go ahead, dig up a copy of Tunnel, whether it's a battered vinyl from a dusty record shop or a crisp CD reissue. Put it on, close your eyes, and let yourself fall into the infinite abyss.